Hot Springs Village Inside Out is a closer look at the greatness of Hot Springs Village, Arkansas and the surrounding areas. People, places, experiences. Hot Springs Village is one of the most beautiful places on earth. Join me, Randy Cantrell, and my co-host Dennis Simpson as we engage in weekly conversations to explore Hot Springs Village Inside Out. Today's show is brought to you by Central Arkansas's favorite radio station, KVRE. Find them on the dial at 92.9 FM. Stream them live at kvre.com. RE/MAX of Hot Springs Village. The award-winning RE/MAX of Hot Springs Village is the largest real estate office inside the village with over 30 full-time agents and support staff. Visit them to learn more about this beautiful place to solve your real estate needs. Call them today at 1-800-364-9007. Find them online at explorehsv.com. They are RE/MAX of Hot Springs Village at 1-800-364-9007 or online at explorehsv.com. Ike Eisenhower State Farm. Ike and his award-winning team have been serving the insurance needs of folks all around Hot Springs Village since 1998. Ike has qualified for State Farm's President's Club, Chairman's Circle, and Hot Springs Village Insurance Agent of the Year. Call Ike Eisenhower State Farm today at 501-984-4100. That's 501-984-4100. Find them online at ikeeisenhower.net. Call them today for all your insurance needs because, like a good neighbor, Ike Eisenhower State Farm is there.
Here again with Miss Christy Bennett, who proves that life in the village is anything but boring. Is that fair, Christy?
Oh my goodness, yes.
It was a quiet Thursday night, and you were sitting minding your own business, and
Well, actually, our son and his wife and our 1-year-old grandbaby and our grandbaby on the way, they had just made the trek from Washington State. He's in the Navy, and they made their trek over to Hot Springs Village. They're staying with us until their house closes, and they're going to be living here with us. So they pulled in the driveway about 3:00 in the afternoon, and we were sitting there thinking, okay, everybody's kind of settled in for a little bit, and let's go out to eat. So we went over to Sunset Grill, and we were sitting on the patio, and it just started feeling weird. About 7:00, we were still waiting on our food. About 7:00, the atmosphere started feeling differently. You could see
tornado-ish. Kind of tornado-y. Yeah.
Right. So we were looking at the weather, and the big red was coming through, the big red line. And my husband, he was emergency management for Miller County for quite some time. So I call him the weather police. And he's my obviously my battle buddy and everything. But we go on his lead with weather, and he's like, yeah, I think we should probably take this to go and going home. So we walked in the door. My mom called me, and she said, hey, I don't know if you're looking at the news. They just said there's a tornado at Valeric on the weather channel or on the news station. And my husband said, hold on a second. So he walked outside, and he did his, weather spotting class training. And he said, get to the basement. So as we were all going to the basement, and our 1-year-old baby's in his little pack and play, we're pushing him in there into the bottom basement. The house started vibrating really loudly, and I was on the radio with my officers, and they were telling each other where they were at and trying to take cover because, again, it wasn't a tornado warning. It was just simply a thunderstorm warning at that time. We had an officer over at the Orient area. He was over on that side, and then we had an officer over at the DeSoto in Minorca area, and we had one officer at Balboa and Ponce de Leon. So they were trying to talk to each other and tell each other what they've seen. And it just happened so fast to where the lights went out, and you just kind of knew. They say you hear a train. We heard the train. They say that, it gets really quiet right before it did that. So For me, this was my first actual tornado that I was in. My son, though, we've been here for almost 2 years, and he's been a Jesseville student, and this is his second. So he was actually at the Jesseville school when the tornado hit there. So this was his second go round. So when the lights went out, we knew, we were listening to the radio and we could hear the officer saying it's coming, it's hitting here, and it was going down the path. So that's when we started trying to do the all call. The problem was the cell phones were down at that immediate moment. Dispatch over here on the west side, they were having hail that was size of baseballs. So it was just a very chaotic moment, but with the officers' great response of talking and telling us what they're seeing. One of the officers was at DeSoto and Monorco, and there were several vehicles entrapped between the different trees. His vehicle actually was hit with a power line, and the two vehicles in front and behind them were as well. So at that moment, it's time to make the phone calls. So we started calling different resources, and we started calling state police, Garland County and Saline County, and they were here within a matter of minutes. It was incredible to see that response. Our biggest issue at that point was trying to see and make sure that everybody was accounted for and get into the areas where was most damaged, which was the Orients area. Our officers were on foot, not only because their units were disabled with the trees down, but they were on foot trying to crawl through trees to get to these houses to ensure that the people were okay, because at that point in time, we knew that we had lots of houses down power lines. So once the command post was set up at the Cortez station and people started pouring in, the public works, I mean, you just cannot ever begin to talk about how incredible they are. They are literally, with as many resources as they have, clearing roadways to get our police officers more ground coverage that they could get to. And then I've got a list right here, and there's over 30 people that responded, or 30 different agencies that responded to help us with that task of just at that basic time is to try to attempt to find everybody and make sure they're accounted for and they're okay.
Well, so I hadn't really heard it until we talked this through, and thank you for. I mean, this is new to me. I didn't know this is how. But number one, how close did it come to your house?
So we are on Riata. On Lake Coronado. So the trees across the street are all down. The trees on the other side of our property are down. We had a couple trees go into the water, but nothing else was touched for our house, our neighbor's house. Now across the lake, the Lake Cove on Caribe, every one of those houses had some damage to them. And then we had several houses that were damaged on the first road, Asoga, whenever you come off of Riata. So it really did hit all the way around us. We were very blessed and fortunate, but our whole neighborhood, we're really close with a lot of our neighbors now, and they were all okay as well. A lot of damage, but again, at the end of the day, as long as everybody's okay. Throughout the whole event, that's what's so miraculous is throughout the whole event, I think we had one broken wrist and a broken arm, and then maybe some scratches and bumps. But other than that, we have not had any reported of any major injuries. So it's unfathomable how incredibly lucky we all were.
It is. Well, luck is one word. Yeah.
Sure.
I personally thought this is the kind of storms that produces fatalities. I mean, significant fatalities.
Absolutely.
And, the next day I went out, flew the drone, got some shots, and right there at basically, to put it in simple terms for those that don't know, if you know where the Catholic Church is, right at the corner of Balearic and
Right.
Fresno, just across the street from there, it's kind of a three-way T. And one of the things I was able to, Todd Jacobin kept saying, well, we're going to have proof there was a touchdown or a tornado. And I was like, I got you proof, because there's a spot right here where everything just laid down like a cone, like a bomb had gone off. And you're just a few blocks from that. And we see trees that are, 40, 50-foot trees that are snapped off halfway up, and just like somebody just snapped a twig. Just the devastation is just unmeasurable. And to not have a broken wrist, that's it, right?
That's it. That's all we've had. And, my Mr. Jordan, he's a pretty big person in this community as well. his house, it was just sitting there, and every tree around him was falling the opposite way of the house. All of the trees on the right side of his house fell this way, and then all of the house trees on, and then it was like it just peeled away from the houses, and we saw that all over the village.
Yeah. I actually, am one of the pastors at Rock Creek. I'm trying to think of what of his quote right now, but one of his quote was the best I've ever heard. He said, "Building code seems kind of, yeah, maybe we need to go by code, maybe we don't. Right up until there's an emergency, and then building
Right.
code's a really good idea, right? It seemed like a
They
good
are.
idea."
Yes, because I mean, it was pretty impressive to see how many structures were so solidly formed. And I feel like that's a really good point. I never even thought about that until you mentioned it. Because you see these tornado scenes and things like that, and it's just complete devastation, just from the wind. It's kind of the wind blows everything away. And to see these solid structures that were so well built back in the 80s and 90s and things like
Yeah.
that are still standing. Yes, many of them did have trees on them, but many of them were in the middle of that. And if they didn't have trees on it, with the amount of winds and the strength of that, could have just blown them completely off, but they weren't. They were okay.
Yeah. Well, and I guess the point we need to come to is that any given day. What I heard as you were telling this story, and thanks for your personal sharing,
Okay.
but what I heard as you were saying this is that, we had to make sure the police officers themselves were okay. Okay, now let's go help everybody else.
So yeah, well, and that was one of the things. So my guys that were on the street, we kept trying to ask, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And they were like, "Yes, I've got civilians here. I'm trying to," and so really that kind of, as long as they're talking, we know they're okay. So
He
we kind
appears
of
to
go
be
with that.
alive. He's still helping people.
Right. That's right. That's right.
So, what were the days like afterwards? I mean, it's got to be, you've obviously, it's been a couple of weeks. You've gotten some sleep since then, right? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's good. So yeah, the days after, with the enormous response of people coming in, just to help, that was what was it was overwhelming. We did have the gates open for, I think, 40 something hours afterwards, because we needed to get these people in there. And we are a private community. We do understand that, but we don't want to hinder other people wanting to help other people. So we had people like Home Depot and different businesses say, "What do you need? We're bringing you stuff." But then we also had people not only in this community, but communities further out: Benton, Bryant, Hot Springs, Arkadelphia. I think we had some in Lone Oak. Just churches coming, people coming with a pickup truck and a chainsaw. And what can we do? So, and honestly, with all of that, we had no issues other than a few little things. To be honest with you, some of our villagers were probably the biggest problem that we had.
No,
Yeah,
can't be.
yeah. So, and I understand this was a traumatic event for so many
Yes.
people, and everybody's been touched differently. But with this, we wanted to bring in those resources and offer those to those people. So in the coming days after that, the amount of cleaning and picking up and response was so overwhelming. We actually had to ask for us to send out an e-blast, because we kept getting inundated with calls of, "Where do I need to go and how can I help?" And that's a great problem to have, right? So, and we just weren't able to direct people like we should. So we were pushing that over, and having them contact local churches to kind of get involved in those kind of things. But so that's kind of where we are right now. The POA is doing an incredible job. They're just out there nonstop trying to clean this all up. It's going to take several months, if not years. Our terrain will look quite different in those areas. I see it every day coming back and forth. It's sad. It's sad, but we have to look back and reflect that this is going to make us stronger. To see the enormous response from people, not only in the village, but outside resources that have come to our aid, and to assist, because that's the biggest thing that I'm so proud of this village, is the enormous community value that our villagers have. I mean, we have 16,000 residents, and almost everybody is trying to help other people, and not only in the gates. I mean, it's everywhere. You know, you've got Kiwanis and all of these service organizations, and they're helping some people internationally, like in other countries. And to see in our time of need that call was answered by so many other people. So it was just very heartwarming to see that. As we move forward, you know, the biggest thing that I want our residents to understand is as we move forward, we've got to be very diligent and ensuring that we're not scammed, that we're not giving our money away without the work being done. We cannot tell you how many times that happens anyway. I mean, that's already happening every day here in the village, whether it's finances or internet or things like that. So this is the time that we need to look out for our neighbors and be diligent and ensuring that work they get is quality work that's licensed, that is going to be done before the payment is received. So that's the things that are in my mind right now that I'm kind of, you know, thinking about. But, you know, again, I just thank everybody for how we've responded to this. The POA is incredible. I worked in city government for 20 years, and to see a group of directors and employees that have been working diligently night and day for these people is an absolutely incredible sight to see.
Well, a couple of things I wanted to note. So months ago, we recorded Diana Goes to Jail. Now, this has been a super successful episode so far, and it's not actually even been released yet because I just made the radio version. And those of you, by the time you see this, you will have known. I called Christy and I'm like, they're going to take Diane to jail because, you know, whatever. And this is just a scammer, you know, but for $500, we won't come pick you up on your warrant. Just give us your Visa number. I mean, and this kind of scams, we discussed this in detail in one of the other shows. And it's even more important now. And your point could not be more well put, Christy, and that don't pay until the work is done.
Right. That's it.
Repeatedly.
That's it.
Period.
That's it. And
don't do it.
Don't do it. Don't pay anything. I mean, if you need, you know, some of these people are great people and they are trying to do this out of the goodness of their heart, and they may need a little bit of money for materials or something like that. You know,
but they don't need full payment up front.
Absolutely not. I would give a very, very small amount until you see them and that work is done. And everybody here understands that. These people are licensed and they're good. They're not going to have a problem with that.
Yeah. I will make one other thing. You know, the laity, me, the Joe Blow out in the organization. I have had peripheral interactions with the police. We talk about me working with the ACIC and the NCIC and so forth. Yeah, but I mean, never on the inside to any degree at all. But I know that there are policies and procedures. And one of the things that we need to make very clear, and I know enough about the policy to know this, the policy is when there is a national disaster or a natural disaster, we open the gates for you to get out and for us to get in. The gates go. So if that seems odd and anathema to you, that's because you haven't read the policy. The bottom line is when the power goes out, the gates open immediately when the power's out.
Well, we have one choice, and it's when the power goes out, either the gate is open or it is closed, and we cannot sit there and have a closed gate and worry about LifeNet getting in and out, any of our emergency responders getting in and out. We just cannot do that. And then, again, I think that was a wake up call for some people. They expected us to. All of our resources are focused on this event, so at that point, gates don't matter, you know. So. It was just for a short time.
Well, like you say, for 48 hours, and it is because of a natural disaster. It's not because, oh, well, let's just let people in. Yeah.
Glazy Poe was longer because obviously that was where the strike zone was, the biggest part of our damaged area. So we didn't have, I think, electricity for that for 2 or 3 days. But we did try our best to have our community support people out there to monitor and to register. We did that for several days after. And we did that at all the gates, just so anybody coming in that was trying to help out, we had a registration on them just so we knew who they were. And honestly, so we could use them as a resource to reach out if we need them for other services.
Sure. Well, you don't know what you don't know at that time,
That's
right?
right.
It's just
Absolutely.
literally working blind. Like, what do we do,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Yep.
So I've been here 24 years. I've lived in the area all my entire life. I remember in the middle 2000s, Modine Spool, shout out to Modine Spool over at Remax, who's been a realtor for in the village for whatever. And she had meteorologists that had come to the village and they were saying, well, y'all haven't had tornadoes in decades. And she said, how can you tell? And the guy said, well, the tops of your trees, they're not twisted out. There's no damage in the top of your trees. They're pristine. And they were. We had a meeting with the Town Homeowners Association with Ike Eisenhower. We did a lunch and learn, and we had just a few minutes to talk to Bart Langford. And Bart is a licensed forester, works with Todd, great guy, lives over on Lake Coronado, knows the exact area. He's from South Arkansas, fantastic guy. And some of the people were just asking questions like, okay, well, all these trees are down. Now what do we do? And his best question was, whose tree is that? Is that a common property tree? Is that an individual lot owner tree? We can't just do it. And his comment, which was a very unfortunate, they're harvesting as fast as they can. The vast majority of it's going to go bad before they can get it off the ground. There are, would you say,
Yeah.
thousands of trees?
I think over 10,000s of trees. I mean, I think we're well into the double digits. Yeah.
Man, 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 man. And a
Yeah.
lot of people, if you don't come in the Gazebo Gate, you really don't even know that that side of the village. I mean, you can
Right.
drive the better part of DeSoto and not see any damage. Oh, well, we didn't see anything.
Yeah.
But the south side, oh my Lord, Lake Conata on up to
Yeah.
Lake Coronado, rough.
Yeah. And I don't want anybody driving out there yet. If you're just, going to drive around and look and see, because there's still so much work out there and those roads are very small and narrow. But you look at your drone footage, that's where the best actually view is. So I recommend people to do that. But like my mom, she was coming to my house yesterday and she's like, I just cannot believe the damage, I just cannot believe the damage around your house. I'm like, this is nothing, down the street is way worse than
Yeah,
that.
just wait till you get down the street. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Well, Diane and I have 21 acres on the north side of Lake Coronado. Okay. And we have been clearing part of that and been refining it. And it's right down on the lake. Beautiful piece of property. We're thrilled to be able to get this. And I'm standing, what's the road right before what's the last road before you get all the way down to the end of the street? I'm blank on it right now. I'm standing at an intersection flying my drone, right? And I think, okay, well, I'll just fly my drone and fly over the lake and come back. And I realized that from the time I flew that drone shot to the time I came back was maybe 7 days, 6 days. And what an incredible difference 7 days
different.
made. Yeah, because I mean, well, 7 days ago, I'm standing here and I come back 7 days later and
Yeah.
there are trees the size of my car with the
Yeah.
roots tipped up and tipped over
Yeah.
exactly where I was standing, you know?
Hmm. Yeah. And it's not going to look the same. It's just not
No,
going to look the
no.
same. And I when I was driving through the areas and I was checking on residents 2 days later, just 2 days later, and there was a guy and he was sitting there and you could see where they just got the trees off and there were three big trees on his house and they had taken them off and his car was in the driveway and his trunk was up and all of his bags were in there and he was sitting out on his porch drinking a beer and I'm like, God bless you, because I can't imagine,
Oh man. Oh man.
spending your entire life and getting to be here, like, all of your days and all your hard work getting you to be able to retire here, and this is your dream, and then having to sit there with that. So, you know, there's been lots of stories of that. The
Yeah.
road, my favorite area is the road of okay, so I'm on Riata and I have this little cove. Well, on the cove on the other side is Carib. And
Yeah.
yeah, Carib. So anyway, they every night, every Friday night, they all bring their camp chairs at the end of the street and they all get in a circle and they all just have a great time. And like last week was somebody's birthday before the tornado and they were singing happy birthday. And then my family's out on the porch singing with them, So it's just a really cool thing anyway. And the next night, of course, it was Thursday when it happened. The next night was Friday. And of course, we're all still out and I'm driving around and I go through that street and all you see is tarps, 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 tarps. And at the end of that street is that group of people. and they're in that circle. And I get out, and as soon as I get out, they're like, "Hey, you coming to sit with us?" And I said, God bless you all, because,
Yeah.
you're sitting here with your houses that are damaged and tarps on them and leaking, and, all of the cleanup that has to happen. There's trees everywhere, and you guys still
Yeah.
found time to come out and sell. And that's what they said. They said, we still wanted to celebrate that we're here, we're healthy, and everything is okay.
Spirit of the village.
That's right. The absolute spirit of the village.
Well, before I hit the record button, we were chatting about a new neighbor that I have, and they're a new neighbor because they bought their house the Tuesday. They closed on their beautiful, newly refurbished house, and this is a restoring person. This is someone who does restorations, and they closed on their house on a Tuesday. The tornado hit on a Thursday. They got a text message Sunday that the power was back on, and this was great news. And they got back over, and the house was on fire because the power had. Some days you just can't win for losing. I mean, really, but
dang.
yeah, but an indomitable spirit.
Absolutely.
They love it. They're moving back. And actually, one of the
Good.
conversations that we had with Mark Langford, the forester, is what's next. And in nature, what's going to happen is we're going to have chest high weeds probably by the end of the summer. It'll grow back, but it won't be the same, and it'll be different, and it'll just be different, right?
That's right. That's right. It'll just be different. We'll all be here, and hopefully our roofs will be fixed, and our houses will be all ready to go, and we'll continue to enjoy this most amazing place on earth.
And the buzz of chainsaws will be a distant auditory memory.
Right. And it's funny because you walk outside my house right now and you hear hammering over here. Hammering nails. It's nails. Da, 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 da. And then you hear the chainsaws over here, and you hear them behind you. And the smell of pine is what is so incredible. That's something I didn't expect. So the smell emitting of the pine trees is almost overwhelming. So you smell that every time you go outside, and to hear those things like on Saturday and Sunday. Our windows were open because it was warming up some, and that's what you hear all throughout. And it just reminds us that, number one, how blessed we are that we're able to be here and listen to these things and know that the rebuilding is happening and that everybody's okay.
Yeah. By the way, and one last note, I was driving in your area, which is, we were talking about the lot Diane and I have, and way back up on top of the hill by the water tower, on Montenoso or whatever. Montenoso.
Yeah.
Oh my Lord. Those homes that have the amazing 180-degree view, well, they now have amazing big blue tarps on them because they were right at the very top of the hill. And I'm like, wow.
She's one of my friends, and
Really?
I call her my friend. I met her through this job, and so I went to her house and to stand in her living room and to see light. Yeah.
It's one of the highest points in the village too. Yeah.
It is. It's the most incredible view in the village. And what she told me, because she lost her husband not too long ago, and they built that home, and she's just the most wonderful lady on the planet. And we were standing on her porch, and like I said, the whole top floor is gone. And she was like, "Listen, when this is done, I want you to come sit on the porch with me." And we're going to just look over this beautiful view and just be thankful and blessed that we're here. And I said, "You tell me when." So
I'm going to use my last quote as we wrap up tonight or today. I want to make note that we could fake the blue lake behind me. We could use, we could make, you can't fake the people. You cannot fake the people. No, some of the sweetest people on the planet.
The best people in the world live here.
It's great to be with you, Christy. Great to see you're okay.
Thank you. Yeah,
and we'll talk to you next time, okay?
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thanks for watching and listening to Hot Springs Village Inside Out, a weekly podcast starring Hot Springs Village, Arkansas. Visit the website at hotspringsvillageinsideout.com.